Okay, let's start this Inside Star Citizen React, though. So it is titled In the Arena, and it's all about Arena Commander. And the only thing I've seen of it was I clicked on it, I watched the very beginning, and I saw a familiar face.
Star Citizen's dogfight module
Not
was
this
first
one.
discussed as far back as 2013, showcased at PAX East in 2014, and released to the world as Arena Commander in June of that same year. And since then, it's had an update here and there, but it's been a long, strange trip set under the shadow of larger endeavors like Squadron 42 and the Persistent Universe. And recently, the new Arena Commander feature team was formed. A small
My favorite thing about Arena Commander, my favorite thing about the more important endeavors comments are they are just completely ignoring the fact that Arena Commander was supposed to dial in the flight mechanics and balance weapons, all those things for Squadron 42 and the PU. Never did. Star Marine was supposed to level up the FPS mechanics and armor and everything, balance, fun, all of it. Never did. They ignored it, and now they're trying to bring it back when you're doing all that balance, you're doing all that feature work in another avenue. So essentially, they're just bringing it back as what could be like this is something WTFosaurus talked about many, many years ago. Just make Arena Commander this free-to-play, you even throw it up on Steam experience that is more like an advertisement for Star Citizen rather than have it be any of those things. And that's what it feels like they're possibly trying to do, is just make it its own separate game instead of, the narrative that was sold to us many, many years ago that, turned out to just, of course, not be true. And
all but dedicated force of names and faces you might recognize, determined to give the oft-forgotten dogfight module some much-needed TLC, and a new roadmap of features that continues later this year and continues beyond.
The Arena Commander feature team is actually the team that is in charge of, Arena Commander.
It's the Theaters of War guy. Now, apparently, I haven't seen it, but apparently he posted to finally confirm that Theaters of War isn't dead, but it's completely shelved. And it's what we all have expected for the whole time, and they had no ability to just tell us that that's what they were doing. But yeah, apparently it's just shelved and not really a surprise. It wasn't him, it was Zylo that posted it. Here it is. So I guess Nebel asked, so they said Theaters of War is not technically in active development, as indicated directly on the progress tracker and the public roadmap. To get ahead of the new inevitable next question, no, it's still not canceled. In fact, we've hired 3 of the incredibly talented Theaters of War developers from Firesprit and look forward to sharing more updates with you when the time is right. It's equally important to highlight that Theaters of War has already positively impacted the PU. Okay, this whole thing. Yeah, they brought in... You remember where they told us the last time they really told us that it positively impacted the PU? Is when they brought in the grenade launcher. Has the grenade launcher positively impacted the PU? Or is it like the bane of everybody that gets out of their ship's existence? Okay, I'm sorry. For instance, Siege of Orison wouldn't have been possible without the work completed for Theaters of War. The team is still as passionate as ever and looks forward to sharing updates on Theaters of War and other experimental game modes when they're ready to do so. Okay, so that was that.
Initially, the Arena Commander was actually owned within sort of the vehicle pillar of the company, and we hadn't had yet a
What I find interesting is they don't call it electronic access anymore.
Team dedicated to it. This was actually the first game that we had rolled out, the first module, and we had called it the Dogfight module. And from there on out, it has now become Arena Commander. So very important for sort of the hardcore player base that is really, really into especially PvP sort of scenarios. That is really the main place and the main reason why Arena Commander continues to exist, and why it's really important for the company. Now, During the pandemic, we stopped working with Firesprite, so that, of course, had to change plans a little bit. There was those among Firesprite that still wanted to continue to work with Arena Commander, and they had come over to work for us at CIG, and those include, Duncan Bunting. Woo! Now, this was important that we were able to put together a plan that would leverage all the art, all the access to content that we've got from Star Citizen, but be able to apply it within Arena Commander without having to remake everything. Also being able to leverage already game modes that exist to improve them in a much, much better quality of life way, and to be able to set us up to be able to scale Arena Commander into new content. And most importantly is, as we come to Death of a Spaceman, there's going to be things that you want to be able to test out without having to risk your life. So we can't just maintain the mode, we want to improve it and to re-excite people about it. So basically, me and Duncan, we came together and came up with a plan for this year and for next to be able to do that. And we broke that into a couple stages, and one of those stages we want to talk about today as it's imminent.
All right, so before they get into it, it's very clear that the highest end PvPers play a lot of Arena Commander. They're playing a lot of it, all right? So it's already doing kind of what it's supposed to be doing in the sense of great place to practice. You don't have to deal with all the problems of the PU with transit and claim times and all these other things, right? But if those are the only people playing it, that's a bit of a problem, right? The game mode needs to get to a place where games like, I mean, these are obviously incredibly successful games, right? But things like Valorant, Overwatch, those kind of games that people are into, the games are fun, and there's ranking systems that people are trying to get better and all that kind of stuff. But they obviously have to clean up the mess and all the tech debt from all this time to get there. And I would imagine that's what this is about, but we'll have to see. I have not seen it.
So Arena Commander, through the years, kind of hasn't had much love as, say, the PU Persistent Universe. In the beginning,
he's wearing the Arena Commander shirt. This is like the original shirt they sold.
Get that multiplayer, get that system flowing. And then a lot of the resources kind of moved off of that, including myself. I went straight to working on vehicles for the Persistent Universe. So Arena Commander...
Okay, you know how I know that's probably not his shirt, and the fact that he's never really worn it before is because it's not falling apart. Back in the day, the CIG merch was really, really bad, and that shirt was terrible.
It was kind of always that background game where you can play a certain thing, but it was kind of stale in the sense that nothing new has come. What you have now is kind of what we had when I originally played. In fact, when I originally worked on Arena Commander, a lot of those same systems, when I went back to it now, are still there. So it's a lot of the old stuff, which works great, but it's not up to our today's standards.
So as flight modes have changed, we haven't updated the race mode. As combat modes have changed, we haven't really updated the swarm modes.
Why is the
As
music
PvP
so loud?
has changed based on features, we need to keep up with that within Arena Commander. And that's a big reason why I think people don't play it, is that it has become somewhat disconnected from what Star Citizen and the Persistent Universe is. And it's imperative that as a simulation to that it is closer and more accurate to what's going on there, and thus means it has to keep up.
So we've always had these big ticket items, things to aim for, big flagship game modes and such. So with the small team that we've got, our focus and this presentation that we put together when the team was first formed was a revival of Arena Commander, a 3-step process. And the first step that we're experiencing early this year is laying the foundation, where we're replacing a lot of the old, kind of worn, very old code, old data with new updated stuff, so that we can apply new features, new quality of life things, and really bring Arena Commander up to what the quality that you'd expect from Star Citizen.
Okay, so as expected, again, not pre-watch, so that feels pretty good that I was at least somewhat aware of what could be going on, is they got to clean up the mess first. And it sounds like that's a lot of what they were doing when Duncan or DJ and his team kind of first got there. Hopefully there's more to it than that.
So where do you start when you want to plan something like this and break up those stages? Well, you start at the start. You start at first impressions. So nobody wants to build what I like to call a castle in the sky. You've got to start by laying foundations and the very first impression of what people are experiencing within that game. So with that comes the front end.
The front end connects everything. It's our lobby system, it's how we get into matches, it's how we connect with friends, it's how we even make our private matches, which we'll have later this year.
One of the most important things that we're going to be able to do is remove all of the flash out of the front end. Now, this is a very, very legacy piece of technology that we had relied on for many years. But over the course of the years, and as the community might be aware, we've already changed over to an internal system called building blocks. What we'd like to do is bring our entire front end up to building blocks.
I've never heard this music before. Is this possibly some pyro music?
Brought portions of it, but not Arena Commander at all.
First iteration is going to be a focus on functionality, and we'll be iterating patch to patch to add more things that players have been asking for a number of years.
Yeah, so we're changing all of this front end to make it very easy to configure.
Okay, so this is work in progress. There's filters up at the top, and then all of the modes you could possibly play are in one place. I like that. Oops.
And get into your matches quickly.
The next step is I want to combine Star Marine and Arena Commander into one menu item, which is Arena Commander. Now, nothing.
But it used to be called Electronic Access. I wonder if they are not allowed to do EA.
Things really changed. We've only just given you one button to go into an interface that you still have all the same access that you would have. So you don't have to go into a specific Star Marine sort of front end that would only get you to the given map, or then a specific Arena Commander front end. You go into the Arena Commander front end and you have access to Star Marine game modes, you have access to Star Marine maps, you have access to Arena Commander game modes, Arena Commander maps, and you have access to all the race modes and race maps.
Now, we're not taking away the Star Marine brand. That's still going to be the maker of these FPS games. But what you'll find now with this new front end is it's all under the Arena Commander simulation module.
So this is really important for us for that first impression, so that one, people know the sheer amount of content and stuff that's actually there. But second, we're also able to update it as time goes on, much, much easier.
For the past number of years, we've been slowly refactoring some of those old systems to bring them up to date so that we can add new features easily. One example would be the spawning module, which Mark Aben is currently working on.
There's huge potential in Arena Commander. We just have to fix what's there. Potential as in being, Arena Commander's a fast-paced action-based. We get you into the game quick and easy. And if we fix some of the issues like when, loadout customization is a huge one.
Ship loadouts, selecting a ship's rentals, etc., are a little bit cumbersome, and it's not very easy to do things like find other players for the game modes that you want on the servers that are going to be the best experience for you. So what we are planning to do is to make that experience a lot more user-friendly, so that you could instantly select your ship, select your players, select the game modes that you want to, and then find a worthwhile adversary in game modes that are head-to-head, or find other teammates that will help you achieve your goals in the cooperative game modes.
That sounds like
I want people to be able to get together to play this game in a very, very easy way. So that whether that is things like friends and lobby support, whether that's things like private matches, which is an imperative thing, we've got to get over to building blocks so we can implement private matches back for you guys, which you've asked for quite some time here.
Since we're also revamping a lot of our core systems, one of the things
just a smoke show to distract players from the bugs and lack of progress in the actual game. Bro, that is one thing that CIG has never done in terms of actual in-game updates. I do not usually stop reacts for Twitch chat comments, but that is just one of the dumbest things I've seen in Twitch chat today, and I feel impaired. Like I have to say something about that. This is not a smoke show to distract from there's nothing to do in the PU. They show the bugs. They show all these things all the time. The funny thing about this is, for me, is that they think that this is worthwhile work. And I really hope it is, but I have a really bad feeling that we're going to look back at this and go, why? When you could have had these people working on the PU, right? Because right now, if you try to join a match in Arena Commander or Star Marine, there's nobody playing. And that's the thing. So all this like menus and all these other things, I really hope the new modes, I know the racing is going to do well, very well. It's the other things that I'm worried about, right? And then, we sit here and go, is this a good time? Is this a good use of people's time and resources? I don't know. But that's what I have issue with. This is so far from a smoke show because it is so far removed from what they should actually be doing. So this is the opposite of smoke show. This is like them like essentially in my mind almost wasting time on camera for all of us. And them not realizing it. It's kind of the opposite in my opinion, but we'll have to see because there's nothing more that I want is to see these modes successful. It's just what would encourage people and what would excite people to want to play these modes is got to be the next step. Obviously, they're doing what they need to do right now to get rid of all the legacy crap until they can start doing that. So that's what this is about.
What the change was this thing called a ban list. A long time ago, we have this kind of list of things that say you can't use this in Arena Commander, or you can't use this ship in Arena Commander. One of the biggest things we changed is made it very tagged based in a way that design can go, if I want to use this ship and this ship in this mode, I just have to tag these things and bam, it's used for that mode. So we want to give tools to design to say, you could use this, you can use this, and we can add an item or a weapon in a few seconds rather than a few minutes.
What we don't want people is guessing or having to really dig around to figure out what it is they want to be able to do. We want to guide them through that. So it's really important that we do make those front-end updates so that our first impression and our foundations are sound within this game.
All right, now is like, at least this title is where it's got to be. We got to bring that excitement to it, and I want to get better at PvP. But this is
one
like,
of our maps within Arena Commander is Dying Star. So building better battles, as Jared likes to put it. How are we going about that? Well, there was a couple updates. We had already made it quite a large visual update, even during the pandemic, and as partnered with the Legacy team. But now with the internal team, we wanted to take some further steps.
So last year, Dying Star underwent an artistic update. It was quite visually stunning, very pretty. A lot of artists worked very hard on that. Unfortunately, the things that made it very, visually interesting, made for not so great gameplay, especially in the arena of like combat. One of the major issues that we got from our community is that it was just too bright, and so you couldn't see where you were going or where other players were.
Gameplay-wise, we kind of missed the mark. There was a lot of heavy fog, things that made players actually motion sick. So we got a lot of feedback from the community, and we addressed those things straight away as soon as we came on board with the Arena Commander feature team.
Some of the things that we did to fix it were to reduce the opacity and the density of the really bright yellow gas cloud that is predominant in the level. That greatly helped to reduce the overall brightness of the level.
He went into the map, he reduced the density of the fog, size of the particles, and the way that the light affects the player's visor.
There were some performance issues with the level itself, and that was a result of some of the actual space station assets being used to generate the space station that was in Dying Star. And so our engineers discovered that there was actually AI within the closed-off hangar. Since they had no place to go, it caused a little bit of havoc in those levels.
How did you feel the first time you heard about the AI?
When I heard the AI, I was like, well, that explains it.
Yeah, we have AI walking around the PU doing nothing, ruining the servers.
While it's completely invisible to the player,
I don't even know what, I'm not even mad anymore. I'm just like, yep.
It really tanked our FPS.
So while these first Dying Star improvements that you're seeing are mainly performance related and visuals as well, we'll be coming in right behind that with some exciting gameplay improvements that you guys should stay tuned for. Oh, geez, that's maybe too much. Was that too much?
That's it. So that's all they're saying about building better battles, and that's not good. So I've heard this before, and I'm in the I'll believe it when I see it mentality. Visuals and performance. Performance is important, but again, they really do seem to be in the stage of we got to clean this mess up first, and I really hope they work on it. But I think we'll have another visit from these guys sometime later this year, and then maybe we'll see what they do, or we'll see it in future patches. But this is the thing that I think is kind of where their focus is right now, and I think this will be the cool part.
So I talked about two sort of core gameplay elements. I talked about sort of the flight and fight, and then I talked about FPS. But what I haven't really addressed is racing, which is flight, period.
Racing is a dangerous sport, especially when you've got 6 degrees of freedom, you're flying around a hunk of a ship. You're probably going to die. So to perfect your skills, you need to do it in Arena Commander.
Our race mode in Arena Commander is one of those modules that were kind of built in the early days when I started working here. And a lot of the core infrastructure is roughly the same of what we had originally.
So the New Horizon maps, they've been in since the implementation of racing, and they've been pretty much untouched. There's been some bug fixes, some quality of life improvements.
We hadn't updated those race maps in a long time. A great example was, the current race map that was in place, it looked like it was an atmosphere, but the way it actually flew was as if we were completely zero G.
So what we've done now is we've got the real planet, Green 3 of the Ellis system, which is an Earth-like, beautiful, holiday-like planet, where the races will now take place in atmosphere where they should be.
So they any of the benefits we get from the racetrack being on a real planet, such as gravity and atmosphere, actually affect the race now.
I guess the old Vanderval, whatever the records are now, will be forever.
Can you fly down?
You can fly down to the planet if you want. You're not going to complete the race.
Oh, you can fly down? Okay.
So our Arena Commander team is very small.
Planets,
we actually don't have artists, but one place that we have countless number of locations, incredibly beautiful locations, is the PU. It just makes sense. Take those locations from the PU and put them in Arena Commander. Some might think that might be a difficult task. It's actually not. The designers have worked out a perfect workflow along with Mark, making some adjustments to how we spawn object containers.
Whoa.
And we're able to take PU locations into Arena Commander pretty fast.
Done this map.
Right now I'm working on is taking racetrack from the PU and transferring them into the Arena Commander. So what I do is basically, with the PU getting racetrack, I would take those racetracks, and with the new race refactor that we have, I can transfer them into the Arena Commander.
Whatever you see in PU is what you see in AC. So whenever we make improvements to things like the actual track that you see in PU, we get the benefits of those improvements. The big benefit is, though, that since they are equal, you get to practice in AC the skills that it takes to become a quick racer and really excel at those tracks without the consequences of like permanent death.
So we can do that for racing, we can do that for...
They keep talking about the consequence of permanent death, but the only thing that really matters is like the PU doesn't really respect your time as much. And if you don't have a lot of time, these modes should be, really good.
FPS combat, we can do that for dogfighting locations like Jericho Station, which will also be coming with this patch.
Jericho Station
now,
seems
there was
quite
some
simple.
inspiration that was brought definitely from the community, and myself and Duncan had seen a lot of the messaging that was out there. There was a super active community within racing, and they were basically setting up all the new structure for themselves. And it always seemed to me like a very obvious thing that we could do to support this was to be able to bring PU level type content and tracks into Arena Commander to fulfill that content. And since the time that we had made racing so many years ago, we've since gotten planets, we've since gotten atmospheric flight, we've gotten a bunch of different flight modes. So racing needs to keep up with basically the rest of the game. To make it relevant to everything that's going on within the Persistent Universe, we need to bring Persistent Universe locations, especially great racetracks, that the community has come up with, that we have come up with into Arena Commander itself, so that we can deliver that to you in a more concise 30-minute session that you could do that practice with, but it'd be completely relevant to the larger existence of the persistent universe. So we take those locations into Arena Commander so that those are much more accurate and much more relevant to what you're doing.
Going forward, here's what I think I wanted to
Overall,
hear.
I'm so happy with the progress the Arena Commander team has made. We went from the very small team with a lot of passion, and we've got a pretty solid plan here on how we can revitalize Arena Commander throughout this year. We're going to be committed to improving Arena Commander throughout the year, throughout the next year. We're targeting 12 new racetracks, including the 3 you're familiar with from the New Horizons Speedway.
The tracks.
We are adding a new dogfighting map, Jericho Station.
Okay.
And we are targeting a lot of quality of life improvements, reworks to some vital systems that you might not see changes on the surface, but they are vital behind the scenes for us to make more changes throughout this year.
So now you've seen what the Arena Commander feature team is up to, and we thought it was important that we came to the community and talked about our plans a little bit. Now, I've learned my lesson. I'm not about to give, for out there dates or too much expectation in place, but we did want you to know what the plans are and that we are actively working on it right now. So you can expect that, you'll see some great updates. And one really important thing that we've actually put in place as well is that we've discussed with our release planners. We've now got a separate patch notes for Arena Commander. So Arena Commander is going to be reported just a little bit alongside Star Citizen, but not embedded within the patch notes, so that it's a little bit easier for you guys to see exactly what's happened with the Arena Commander patch to patch. Because though we've talked about some specifics in this, there's lots of little things that, aren't worth necessarily talking about on video, but bugs that are fixed that, hey, maybe bothered people for years that have been addressed since then. So we're really happy to be able to talk to you guys about what's going on with the Arena Commander feature team, and look forward to the rest of the year.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Arena Commander is finally getting the front and back end fixes needed to add more ships and return things like private custom matches. That the existing racing modules are finally getting remade with the same atmospheric physics as the PU. And that each one of the new PU racetracks will make their way into Arena Commander when the first new drop is released later this year. Now, don't forget that the Lunar New Year festivities are coming to an end, so don't miss out on your last chance to participate if you haven't already. And check out last week's Star Citizen Live for even more information about the upcoming Alpha 318, and then keep your eyes on the RSI website and socials for info on its forthcoming release. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
All right. Here's what I take from that. Here's my takeaway. It's very simple. The really important modes are Arena Commander and Star Marine. Those are the popular game styles that exist in the world today. And those are the modes that are most important, but the focus is on racing. And that's my takeaway from that. Is it makes sense to get that in because it's the easy thing. It's the thing that more people in the company are working on, so they're going to get that stuff done now. But the modes that need the most love are Arena Commander, ship combat, but probably more importantly than anything, Star Marine. Because those are the modes that could popularize and fill content for a lot of people. People could find Star Citizen through those modes and all those things. So at the moment, I think I kind of understand where they are now. And they seemed very apprehensive to sharing any additional news or ideas that they have for Arena Commander and Star Marine updates. Are we going to keep Arena Commander as arcadey with the blowing up a ship and getting repaired via the game mode and things like that? Maybe, maybe not. They're just talking about new locations to play these games in and not really addressing why nobody plays them in the first place. A little bit, because then they also talked about how they do and how they are working on the ways to create new modes, like by banning certain ships and things like that, private modes and stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting. They're taking this is your practice for the PU because the PU is so punishing. I I really wish they took the approach of, we want to make these games individually very good and very fun on their own. But yeah, I agree with you a little bit, Amandus. Small team, got to keep the target realistic. So the realistic target right now, clean things up, use the tools that the teams are working on right now, like things with racing, and then go from there. But they seem to have some big plans that they're not super comfortable with sharing with us right now. And I would just say I'm looking forward to the next update, and I do look forward to every monthly report update and patch notes update with these guys, because it does seem like they are really passionate. They really care. I mean, we know DJ pretty personally, stops by the channel almost every day, and it's I'm excited. I just don't know anything about what the plans are, so it's hard to get super excited about, So we'll have to see. But I guess let me know what you guys think. Do you think 6 months to a year from now we're going to be playing a lot of Arena Commander? I may be racing, but that's all I really see.